When you want to build a new home, you want to make sure you select the best site for your house. There are a lot of things to consider that you might not even think of. What all should you consider as part of your site selection? Hi there, I'm Cale with Hodeby, Home Design by You, where I bring you design tips and guides for your new house design. Selecting the property on which you'll build your new house is an especially important part of creating your new house. In this video, I'll walk you through the numerous issues to consider when selecting the property and how to analyze the site from a design standpoint. At the end of this video, I'll provide bonus information where I'll walk you through the considerations that are important for locating your house on the property and designing your site. Let's get started on selecting your site. So you want to design a new house and make sure you select the site that works best for what you want. Before you look at properties and purchase one, you should be sure to know what you want to build. This means knowing the size of the house and the rooms and spaces you want in it. Knowing the size of the house will narrow your search as to the lot size that you'll want. Understanding the rooms and spaces you want inside and out will allow you to look at the site from a design standpoint, seeing what opportunities the site might provide for your design. Knowing these will be important considerations to keep in mind while selecting a site. You might also want a sense of the style you want for the house by researching images online, in books, and in magazines. Many styles will influence how you approach the house and the shape of the house, so you want to make sure the property is of the right size, proportion, and character for what you want. There are many things beyond the size and cost of the property that you should consider before making your decision. Let's discuss each of these. The neighborhood or location of the property is important and should be the first consideration you have. This is fairly obvious, but there are a lot of considerations involving this. First, the location you select will be governed by a local jurisdiction such as a county, township, village, or city. The actual governing body will be organized based on the laws of the state and country you're in. The jurisdiction will determine the requirements for how your site is to be used and how your house is to be designed and built. In addition to the jurisdiction, many locations have various other public entities that can impact the site and the services provided. Such entities can include school districts, community college districts, sanitation and water management districts, and fire service districts, among others. These can have an impact in terms of fees to connect with utility services and the taxes that apply to the property. Another consideration is whether the property is within a homeowners association. These entities can have requirements regarding design standards, house sizes, landscaping, and parking. They often have their own design review and approval process separate from the local authority, and fees might be included as part of the review. They'll also have monthly fees to maintain the association's properties and services. If you want to build in an established neighborhood, you should be aware of any required design standards for that area, such as size and style limitations and exterior material requirements. These are especially true in older areas, many of which have been officially designated as historic districts. Utility services to the site are another consideration. Many areas, including small towns, suburban areas, and rural estate lot subdivisions, might not provide all services to your site. This might require you to drill a well for water, build a septic system for household sewage, or provide alternative energy such as propane for cooking and heating. Other area services can include garbage and recycling pickup, law enforcement by either police or sheriff's forces, and fire service. These can be provided by a local government as part of your taxes or by an independent entity that provides regional services through taxes or annual fees. Schools, recreation opportunities, and retail and personal services are important as well. If you have children, the school district, school locations, and transportation to and from school will be especially important. Nearby parks, natural preserves, and recreation centers might be of interest to you. Travel times to employment, shopping, personal services, and public or regional transportation services should match the lifestyle you want. And don't forget to check on nearby options for any faith you might have. Your neighbors will be an influence on your life. Unfortunately, you can't really get to know them beforehand. However, you can research the area to understand the perception of the neighborhood. Many neighborhoods could be active in terms of social gatherings, fairs, and street festivals, any of which you should consider visiting. You can also review statistics for crime rates in the area and see how active any neighborhood watch programs might be. Now, the size of the property is very important in terms of what you can build on it. Any property within an urban or suburban area will have its use governed by a zoning code. This can also apply to some rural areas, especially within townships or in counties with a significant amount of development that's not part of a local city or town. Understanding the requirements of the applicable zoning codes is important, as these can limit the size, footprint, and paved areas allowed on the property. It will also establish limitations on where the house can be placed on the property through requirements for setback distances from the property lines. There are often roof height limitations as well. Additional requirements will vary by district and authority, such as limitations on auxiliary uses of the site, such as a home business, and requirements and limitations for parking different types of vehicles. The physical aspects of the site must also be considered. You should be aware of where the property lines are at when you visit the site, how the site slopes and drains, the soils on the site, and whether they're suitable to build what you want. Rock outcroppings can limit where you build, the groundwater level can impact foundations and basements, and adjacent properties might impact drainage and views onto or from your property. Many soils contain radon, which is a gas you can't see or smell but must be properly controlled for health reasons. Mitigating radon is fairly simple, but you should be aware if the property is affected by it. Available views can be important in picturesque areas and should be considered. Hills, valleys, mountains, oceans and seas, rivers and streams, lakes and ponds, natural reserve areas, trees and forests, prairie or desert views, sunrises and sunsets are all important opportunities to take advantage of. Be aware of any environmental impacts that can affect the quality of the site. Weather is an important consideration, especially in terms of the sun path across the property, wind and storm directions during the various seasons, snowfall amounts, and any watercourses and features that might be on or adjacent to the property. Man-made impacts are important as well. Noise from playgrounds and parks, sports facilities, and nearby transportation such as highways, trains, and airports are important to be aware of. Potential noise and odors from industrial, agricultural, and livestock should be considered. Finally, the cost of the property and the cost of local taxes and use fees, along with any homeowner association fees, will be of great importance, as these will impact your project costs. As you can see, there are a lot of things to consider when looking at various properties to build on. More rural areas will tend to have fewer governing issues to deal with, but will have few utilities and municipal services provided. It will have lifestyle impacts in terms of distances to shopping, recreation, and education facilities. Suburban and urban locations will have more government issues to deal with, but will have closer proximity to jobs, recreation, schools, and services. Though there's a lot of information to be aware of, getting the right location will allow you to have the house and lifestyle you want that can fit within your budget. I'll now give you your bonus information on things to consider when designing your site. Once you've selected your site, you need to do a site analysis. The analysis should show where the property can be accessed from the street or road and where utility services are located. It should show how the property slopes and any features of note such as trees and shrubs, streams, ponds, shorelines, rock outcroppings, and wetlands. This information can be established by a professional site survey, which is an important thing to have done on your site. Using this information as your base plan, you should add the sun's path across the site at the summer and winter solstices and at the spring and fall equinoxes. Use arrows to show the directions of seasonal winds and where seasonal storms come from. You can typically find this information online through your National Weather Service. Use a different set of arrows to indicate any desirable views. Be sure to show adjacent houses and buildings that will limit those views. Review the existing trees and shrubs to determine what should stay and what should be removed, and note that on the analysis. Outline areas that will limit where you can build, such as poor soil, rock outcroppings, or wetlands. Finally, be sure to show any zoning limitations, such as setback lines, and show the opportune areas you might place the house. This site analysis is an important reference for your house and site design, allowing you to take full advantage of any opportunities. When you design your site, be sure to do multiple schemes in conjunction with the development of your house design. Do multiple concept plans for each location you're considering to place the house. These will then be further developed over time, going back and forth from the site plan to the floor plan as you finesse the options for the house. When planning the site, you need to consider many things. Prominent among these is whether you want a formal house and yard or a more casual or regional house and yard. This will depend on aesthetic preferences for the house, but will also be influenced by how you and your family want to be perceived by others. For automobile access, consider the direction of the approach from the street, then how you want to view and approach the house once you're on the driveway of the site. This sequence will establish the perception of the house by visitors and guide you in your house design. Parking for guests and for the family should also be located. If the street has sidewalks on the adjacent properties, be sure to extend them across your lot frontage. Accessing the site by way of a sidewalk should also be considered. Finding the main entry should be easy to discern. If it is front and prominent, be sure to provide a nice walkway from guest parking in any public sidewalk. If you want the entry more out of sight or through a courtyard or garden, be sure to provide an identifiable means of getting there, using the walkway and possibly an opening in a garden wall or a set of welcoming gates. However, never hide the main entry such that no one can figure out how to get there. The family entry should also be considered. Will it be a side entry from the family parking, the back of the house, or will it be through the garage? Mail service is something to determine for your site. Most new neighborhoods in the U.S. require a curbside mailbox. However, many established neighborhoods still have doorstep delivery, which will require a mailbox at the entry. If your site has a significant slope, be sure to account for that. You don't want a driveway that's too steep to easily drive up. You also don't want water from uphill flowing into your house or garage, but rather you should divert it around the house. The slope might also provide for a walkout basement or dynamic views. The rear yard should be considered in terms of planned activities and the areas that they'll need. Porches, patios, decks, swimming pools, and gardens should be addressed in conjunction with the house design, sun paths, and weather impacts. Some areas will have alleys that are used for garbage collection, and some areas have paved alleys with a requirement for all driveways and garages to be at the back of the property. These will impact how you design your yard. Finally, you'll need to consider landscaping. Where do you want grass, gardens, ponds, fountains, gazebos, ornamental trees, shade trees, or shrubbery? Do you want the landscaping to provide privacy or a sense of formality? Be sure to also consider lighting opportunities. Use all of the information in this video as a guide to selecting, analyzing, and designing your site. Remember, there are a lot of things to consider. However, understanding and resolving these effectively will allow you to design a wonderful place to live your life. Be sure to go to www.hodeby.com, that's HODEBY.com, to find a lot more information on house designs. I'm Cale, hoping you have a lot of fun designing your new home.